Please welcome Deidre Smith, Director of Alumni and Family Engagement.
Good evening, everyone. This is such a beautiful sight to see. Welcome to Davidson College's 50 plus years of co-education celebration weekend. Yes. It's truly a privilege and honestly a joy to stand before you today as we embark on this momentous occasion. My name is Deidre Smith, and I serve as Director of Alumni and Family Engagement, and it fills me with immense pride to witness the collective spirit and enduring commitment of our Davidson community. Our institution has a long and cherished history, and this weekend, we come together to celebrate a significant milestone in our journey, the incredible achievements of women at Davidson College. Over the last 5 decades, Davidson has witnessed a profound transformation. The inclusion of women in our academic community was a pivotal moment that has enriched our campus, broadened our perspectives, and empowered countless individuals to excel in their chosen paths. We gather here not only to honor the history of this transformation, but also to look ahead to the bright future it promises. This celebratory weekend provides a unique opportunity for all of us, whether you're an alum, a student, faculty staff member, or a friend of the college. We want to connect, share experiences, and take inspiration from the trailblazers who have paved the way for a more inclusive and equitable Davidson. Throughout the weekend, you will have the chance to engage in meaningful discussions, reminisce about your time at Davidson, and most importantly, forge new connections with fellow Wildcats. We have curated an excited lineup of events, including panel discussions and keynote addresses, where you will hear from individuals who have broken barriers and achieved great success in their fields, achievements that make Davidson stronger too. These inspirational messages are not just about celebrating the past, but also about inspiring our future. We will celebrate how far we've come, and together we will chart a course for the future, ensuring that Davidson College remains a place where everyone, regardless of their gender, has the opportunity to thrive and make an impact. So as we embark on this memorable journey, I encourage you to fully immerse yourself in the festivities. Open yourself to new connections, and let the collective spirit of Davidson inspire and uplift you. Let this weekend be a reflection of our past, a celebration of our present, and a catalyst to our future. Before we proceed, I would like to express my deep appreciation for the exceptional committee whose creative ideas and thought leadership have made this weekend possible. I'd like to take a moment to ask all of our members of our Alumni Volunteer Committee and on-campus task force to please stand so that we can acknowledge your invaluable contributions. Furthermore, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our outstanding committee leaders and co-chairs. Carol Connor Willingham, class of 1977. Michelle Sweeting, class of 1993. And Lily Acton, class of 2020. Your dedication and hard work have played a pivotal role in making this weekend celebration a reality, and for that, I am tremendously grateful. And now it is my pleasure to introduce you to someone who is at the forefront of preserving and advancing the ideals of inclusivity, diversity, and academic excellence here at Davidson College. Please join me in welcoming President Doug Hicks, who will share his thoughts on this momentous occasion and also introduce our esteemed panel for this evening. Everyone, let's welcome President Hicks.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Deidre. I want to offer a big thank you to all of those people who had a big hand in making this weekend happen. What a special opportunity. And I have to say that the group out here looks a little bit special to me. When I was here in the late 80s, the number of women was capped at 40%. And as I look around, I see a few more than 40% out there. So this is pretty nice. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be a part of this celebration. It's been months and in fact years in the planning. And it's just so energizing to see all of you in the lobby and to see you talking to each other. It's just really exciting. And when you think about Davidson formalizing coeducation 50 years ago, it's really not that long ago. Yet we have decades of incredible stories, successes, and outcomes over those years. I'm eager to connect with many of you this weekend and to learn more about the impact of Davidson on your lives. You were pathbreakers as Davidson women, and I want to hear the stories from the very early days to the most recent. I want to mention and take time to recognize one special guest in the audience today. You're all special, of course, but there's one person I want to mention before we launch into the panel. As many of you know, the first woman to graduate from Davidson was Mitzi Boaz Woodward in 1973. Sadly, Mitzi has passed away. We will never forget how she helped set into motion something truly extraordinary. Mitzi's husband, Kes Woodward, also a 1973 graduate, is here with us today. He made the trip to Davidson from Fairbanks, Alaska. Ken. Ken made me pledge to him that Catherine and I will go visit him in Alaska, and I hereby do swear that we will go to Alaska to visit our friend and alumnus, Kes. So we're thrilled to have you all here this weekend, representing a vital time in the history of Davidson College. Let me turn my attention to today's conversation now. We have an exceptional group of panelists who will join me on stage. First, help me welcome Vicki Switzer, class of 1974. Vicki, now a retired psychologist, was the first woman to enroll at Davidson after the trustees' vote for full coeducation. Next, yeah, you can clap. I feel a little bit like we're doing a game show here. We're going to see who wins, who gets the car. Next, Patti Phillips Clark, class of 1977. Patti's a community leader and member of Davidson's first co-ed class, first co-ed freshman class. Are there any members of the class of 1977? All right, then Mitzi Short, class of 1983. Mitzi is the CEO and co-founder of New Season Coaching and Consulting Group and co-founder of the Band of Sisters. She was a dual sport Wildcat and campus leader during the early years of coeducation. And finally, we clap for you too again. Yeah. This is a very friendly audience, and I think I know why. And finally, Bo Phillips, Vicki's classmates in the class of 19, and Vicki's classmate from the class of 74. Bo? Bo's a founding partner of Alston and Bird Law Firm, and he was a student leader on campus leading up to the coeducation decision. So welcome to you all. I look forward to our conversation. All right, Vicki, you're a path breaker, so we're going to start with you. You're often called the poster child for Davidson's transition to degree seeking candidates. That must have come with a sense of responsibility and opportunity. What was it like for you?
Poster child. Okay, so I really wanted to come to Davidson for a long time. My application was into the admissions office at least 6 months before the board acted. So the board acted, my application was approved. I got a letter, congratulations, and like 2 days later, I got a phone call. We need some help at Davidson. Will you help us? It's kind of like anything. So what they wanted was help getting the word out that Davidson was looking for qualified applicants. They wanted you guys. They wanted to fill some of the spots in the class of 74, and they wanted a full class in 77, but people needed to know about it. So they asked me to come to campus. They brought in media. They did an interview. It was carried on the UPI. And so we got all of you. And didn't that work out well? Thank you. And here it is 50 plus years later, and I'm still talking about Davidson every chance I get. Tremendous pressure, absolutely. Although it was not articulated by us as a group, we knew that there was an opportunity here to really screw up. And so it was kind of like the mantra was, you're the first class of women, don't be the last. Okay, so how did we deal with that? Well, as you know,
Time's up, I guess.
that's not part of my speech.
Go on.
Anyway, we had to do, there were significant groups of naysayers, alumni, faculty, and even students. And I'm going to let Bo talk about that. And their concerns needed to be addressed. There were lots of worries that women would be too distracted to focus on their studies. I mean, really? And that, oh, if we did have the cognitive bandwidth, that we wouldn't be serious students because after all, we were only interested in an MRS degree. Where did that come from? That's 1940s stuff. But anyway, so we needed to do 3 things. We had to succeed academically, and there was lots of pressure on us to do that, and we did. Secondly, we needed to fit in with the all-male culture, and we'll have fun telling some stories about what that was like. And so, you know, we just worked at fitting in. We didn't ask for anything. It was just about membership and fitting in. And then lastly, the most interesting piece, I think, is that we believe that we should not make trouble. There was a strong belief system that women who made trouble were difficult and too emotional, and those were 2 reasons they didn't want us at Davidson. So we dealt with unpleasantness. We dealt with harassment, that I don't even know that that was a term back then, by ignoring it. And it's really interesting how that's changed over time and not changed, but we'll talk about that stuff too. One thing that we didn't protest that was very funny, I think, is that in our bathrooms for probably a decade, those blankety blank blank urinals were all over the place. And my very talented roommate, Pat Elise Morgan, came up with this great idea that they made the ultimate flower pot. It came with a flush. So that's how we coped with that.
Speaking of urinals, Bo. Paint a
I've been
picture.
introduced a lot of ways. That's the first.
Yeah, well, go ahead and paint a picture for us. What were the conversations like? You know, around the water cooler, around the urinals? What were the conversations like on campus about women coming, and how did you, as a campus leader, how were you part of those conversations?
Well, the thing that surprised me the most, now I was, 18 years old, naive in a lot of ways. But the thing that surprised me the most was how much resistance there was within the student body to coeducation. I understood that a bunch of old men in the alumni might be nostalgic and be resistant. I heard reports and at times observed dissension on the Board of Trustees. Heard a little bit of pushback from the faculty, but I was just surprised at how many of my classmates and fellow students were opposed to coeducation. And some of it was, fairly simple and straightforward. I made a choice to come to an all-male institution, and it's now being changed. But it certainly surprised me. And, we had good debates about it. Fortunately, it was a vocal minority, but a minority nonetheless. And my sense is that probably by the time the vote happened in May of '72, at least 2/3 of the students were on board. But that's still a significant dissenting group. That leads me to a nod that I need to give to Sam Spencer. Sam Spencer with a lot of you never met Sam Spencer. He was brilliant, but he was a well-mannered Southern gentleman. And it was his tenacity and political skill that helped navigate some very choppy waters during the year or so leading up to the vote by the board. I'd also like to give a nod to my Uncle Dick. Judge Dixon Phillips was Sam Spencer's closest personal friend on the board, and they were allies in the push for coeducation. And I heard some stories from Uncle Dick about the resistance. And it wasn't something that was a foregone conclusion really until about March of 1972. So when you think about all the changes, the good changes that have happened over 5 decades, it was a difficult start. And it was difficult for the men who were trying to make it work. Vicki was right to say it was important not to screw up. It was important for the men on campus to make it work. And we felt pressure to make it work. If there are any old people in the audience, some of you might understand that Will Terry put a lot of pressure on me when I was the student body president, when the incoming class of '77 showed up. He literally said to me, "Phillips, don't screw up." So we all felt that, and we all felt a responsibility, not a burden, but a responsibility to try to get it right.
Thanks, Bo. All right, well, Patti, I want to ask you, what were your experiences like as a member of the class of 1977? And in what ways did you see Davidson being ready for women? And what ways was campus, besides urinals, in what ways was the campus not ready?
Oh, I don't think Davidson was ready for us. We were so glad. They didn't know what to do with us. They didn't know what rules to make. So there were no hours. There were no house mothers. There were no locks on our dorms. They issued these meal tickets that were money denominations, way more than the women could eat up. So we had a great pocket money thing going, selling the extras to the men. Know that? Oh, I sold all my half of my meal tickets. I sold half my meal tickets. Mother was only sending me $25 a month. So anyway, that worked out really well. They didn't, feel the need to, or maybe they forgot to set up sororities for us.
We didn't want them.
And well, Davidson was so proud of its self-selection. And I just believe everything I'm told. So I thought I can go sign up and be an SAE. I can be if I don't. And I felt empowered, but not interested. Not interested. Anyway, but I thought I embraced that freedom and Davidson not knowing what to do with us. One thing this, as far as I know, the only thing that I really noticed that they did in preparation for us, and it was kind of funny, but they bought a couple of home style washers and dryers so that the women's laundry could be A, done for them, which I hadn't had in years at home, and B, gently, not those commercial machines. So I thought that was a funny attempt at preparation. The irritating thing, of course, was the condescension of the Queen's co-eds. And I'm sorry, it's true. My student fees went to bus them over. The buses left at 11 p.m. and 11:15 p.m. the co-eds heard on the door. Lots of us, sheepish knock on the door after the men had said goodbye to the Queen's co-eds, and it's 11:15 and they're not ready to call it a night. So I thought that was kind of funny. They had owned Davidson for so long and they didn't really feel like the co-eds were worthy of these prized men.
I'm not sure I understand all of that part about co-eds. That's a misty memory back to the late 80s for myself. So yeah, that's terrific. And Mitzi, you arrived. Speaking of urinals, Mitzi, you arrived in 1979. It was still pretty early in the era of coeducation. It was still a very predominantly white institution. What are your key experiences that you still hold close?
Yeah, so first I want to give a shout out to those that came before me because we didn't have to do as much as you did in terms of the heavy lifting. When I got here in 79, I think the ratio of men to women was 3-to-1, and I was thinking choices. Wow. For me, being an African-American female, I think what stood out most was the fact that I was African-American in the sense that there were few of us here. So from a numbers perspective, similar to my high school in terms of size, maybe Davidson actually was a little smaller. Male-female ratio, Davidson was 3-to-1, it was more 50-50. But from an African-American perspective, Davidson was 90-10. And percentage-wise, that seems, small. But when you think about actual numbers, there were 3 of us in my graduating class. So, talking about spotlight being on you, talking about not wanting to mess up, that was something that was top of mind for me. But when I think about my overall experience at Davidson, the 2 things that stand out is kind of the spirit of Davidson, which was the competitive spirit, academic. It was obviously great academic institution. But what concerned me at first was, okay, how is it going to be relative to other schools that I went to? Is it going to be cutthroat? And I found Davidson not to be that. I thought the community was very supportive, and it was almost like everyone, you work together to succeed. Study groups and all those things were all about everybody being their best selves, as opposed to one person winning and another person losing. The other thing, and it stuck with me even since my visit senior year, was this spirit of community and relationships and care. When I did my visit to Davidson and did the tour, I'll never forget, people would say, "Hey, how are you?" And they'd stand and wait for your answer, right? And that was like shocking coming from somebody. This is what the South is like. This is Davidson like. But that was an expectation that was set, and that's what I experienced during my time here. So those are a couple key stories.
That's terrific. Well, just to know, we're gonna be inviting you all to ask questions from the audience. So be thinking of really good Davidson quality level questions as you move along. I'll put a few out there so you can think about what you'd like to ask of this august group. And I wonder, well, first let me mention a couple of numbers that are interesting at the current moment. First, when you look at our faculty, talking to you, class of 77, things have changed. Now we have a majority of female faculty members at the college. And the student body is more than 50% women and those who identify as women. And it could be higher. We actually, think about a kind of gender balance. There's no governor on the number of men or women in the student body, but it's just an incredibly wonderful student body where women are adding at least half, more than half of the numbers and the intellectual firepower. So you've affirmed that. Let me ask you, is there anything you'd change about your Davidson experience or any ways that you all acted as students? Vicki, you jump in.
For me, it would be, and this is my only regret, that I didn't get to be here 4 years. Being here 2 years was just such a fabulous experience for me. But I regret that I don't have the depth and the breadth of relationships that the class of 77 had. The fact that you guys go on a beach trip every year. I mean, I'm pea green with envy. But anyway, that's my only regret.
Well, I would change mostly things about me. I would have gone to more, I wish I'd gone to more cultural events and speakers. I think I hit most of the concerts. But and I wish I'd gotten to know the women in our class better, but lo and behold, some imaginative women in our class thought that we could have a do-over. And when we all turned 50, these wonderful women organized this beach trip, which is now, this is the 18th year, I guess. The 19th. I don't know if we can count that. Is this a beach? Anyway, some folks made it possible. I wish I'd had it at the time, but we were really ready at that stage of life to know and love each other. And that was kind of fun. And that basketball revolving door thing with the coach, I would have changed that if I could. I fell in love with Davidson when Lefty Drizel was here, and I was kind of pumped for that. So,
Change anything?
I'll go first.
okay.
I wish that I had been less anxious and more reflective and relaxed and learned more from the women, particularly that freshman class, because we were very focused on not screwing up. But I think I was more focused on not screwing up and helping make the transition work well than I was learning from the women, listening to the women better about how to make the transition work well and happen more quickly. It's easy to look back 50 years and see that now. But that's one thing I wish I had been better at when I was 20 years old.
For me, I think I would have liked there to have been more representation in terms of the student body, more representation of people of color from the faculty. But other than that, I don't have any regrets, and I don't know that I would want it any different, because I learned and became the person I am today because of my experiences at Davidson. So I don't think I would change anything other than those two things.
Terrific. Well, let me ask you, in terms of faculty, staff, or community members, who made a difference for you on this campus or near campus?
I love that question. When our oldest daughter, Dorset, was looking at colleges for the first time, I put a sticky note up on the wall beside her desk that listed the 11 professors that I would never, ever, ever forget. No pressure. And
so name those 11 in order.
I said to her, I just hope for you someday that you will feel that way about your college professors. Max Polly, my advisor, and he married Jordan and me, and he's been to my church to do a seminar for us on anti-Semitism. Never goes away, does it? Anyway, David Kaler, Dan Rhodes, Bliss, Ligo, Fronis Johnston. Oh my gosh, I was on the edge of my seat in his class. He was on the edge of the desk, just telling stories, and that was my history class. Charlie Ratliff, I didn't have the nerve to take him till senior year. And I was a religion major, so I was a little hampered in those areas. But anyway, if I'd just known, I would have taken more with him. So there were 11. I could name them, but there are other people.
And we should name Dorset, the class of 05, who's here with us today. So, yeah.
And I will say that Dorset got 4 college visits, and they were all to Davidson.
That's what I call freedom of choice.
Right. And she is the perfect Davidson alumni and has found her husband here as well. So anyway.
How about others?
So I think the things that stick out to me too, in addition to the great faculty, were the fact that you actually got to know the faculty and you got to go over their houses and have dinners, and they were your advisors. I think the hall counselor experience was important. I think the whole experience of flicker ball, and certainly I think academics outside the classroom, like the sports and the teams, invaluable.
You know, the reason I worked as hard as I did at Davidson is because I knew somebody I respected so much would be disappointed if I didn't perform. And I don't think that happens at that many schools.
Were there women in the faculty or staff or community who were role models for you beyond the student body?
Cora Nelson, she was so scary.
We'll have a writ today.
Yeah, my major professor was Ed Palmer, who some of you may remember. And I was so fortunate to end up in the psych department rather than some of the departments that had issues about women students. And then the psych department was very, very welcoming. That whole faculty was great. And Ed Palmer and I corresponded, you know, on his typewriter until a year or so before he died. He was really wonderful. And then the other person here who I got to be good friends with was Will Terry. Will married my husband and I, who was a 74 class graduate, Dave Curtis. And he also spoke at my husband's funeral when he died in 2002. Will visited us a couple of times. I mean, I had a great relationship with Will. So anyway, I love Davidson.
I would just echo what you said about Will. I had a wonderful relationship with him. He was just very supportive, sometimes pushy, but very supportive. And in the context of coeducation, he was a great listener. And I just always felt like, even if he was trying to send a message about what needed to happen on campus, he also cared about me, wanted me to succeed in my little piece of all of that. And I'm sorry that a lot of people in the audience may not remember Will, but he was our dean of students at the time, and made a big difference in the lives of a lot of us.
Okay, I'll ask one more question, then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. What compels you, all 4 of you, to stay so engaged with Davidson, with your classmates, and with the college itself? You don't have to say the president for every answer, but
Okay. I'm sorry, the question was, how are we engaged with Davidson now?
yeah, and why? What compels you to stay so engaged?
I've been a very active alum. When Davidson calls, I try to always say yes. I've entertained a lot for Davidson over the years because that's really what I like doing. So been on the board of visitors for 7 years. When my husband died, I set up an endowed permanent scholarship to support students in swimming here at Davidson because there was very little swimming money. So it was nice to be able to contribute to that and feel like we had made a difference.
Thank you.
I think for me, Davidson has stayed true to its purpose. You're educating people for lives of service, leadership. And the connection in the community has been had an unbelievable impact on my life. And so to be able to give back and pay it forward is what keeps me coming back. And so engaged and involved.
Terrific.
I would say gratitude. In a word, gratitude. I have many women I love in my class, but I have a lifelong bestie, and I have a husband, and they're soulmates that I met here, and I'm very grateful. I am grateful to have found a place where it felt like these are my people. I get them.
My family.
Yeah, we want to work hard, but we also care about that honor and integrity and character and all that. And I'm not the only serious one in the group now. Very serious. Anyway, I think it all would come back to gratitude for me. I think I felt, as my church says, fully known and fully loved here.
Well, the amazing thing about you all, and Bo will just sit out on this one. You all shaped what Davidson is as well. You were true path breakers. So we all come into Davidson and try to shape it, but you all were there at such a pivotal moment. It made such a difference. Bo, you as well. I know you were one of the student leaders who really stood up for coeducation and for your classmates as well who were coming in. So that's fantastic. So let's open it up. Let's see what's out there. Come on up to the mics if you would, or are we running them? Running them. So Anissa, yeah, please.
Hi, I'm Cecily Craighill Davis, class of 91. Yeah, the great class of 91. And actually, when I came to Davidson, I thought it was like a wonderful world of coeducation because the school I'd gone to for high school was only 25% female. So it was an interesting time when you started college, and I'd be interested to hear, given the social and political, the sort of historical turmoil of the late 60s and early 70s, how that impacted your experience, particularly as women coming into a place where the sexual revolution was happening and Vietnam, Nixon, all of these things. What did that do to your time while you were here at Davidson?
Take it away, Vicki.
You can have that one first.
You know, I was around people who were more politically active actually in high school. So I was very influenced by a guy who was a couple of years older than me who went to my church, who was always out canvassing for, I don't know, McGovern or demonstrating or whatever. I'm sorry, I was kind of in a little cocoon here. I certainly felt the freedom, but I'd come up in a family that had 2 working parents, and it never occurred to them that I couldn't do anything I wanted to do. So I'm not the revolutionary. I just assumed all along I couldn't feel I was breaking barriers or anything because it was always just sort of assumption. I had 2 older brothers. I'd taken a lot of kidding, and maybe it'd be harassment now, but I'd had all kinds of things that come at me that we laughed at. It was hard to offend me, but I'm sorry I wasn't as conscious and aware of our bigger world and what was going on when I was here. Sorry, you take it. Vicki.
No, go ahead, Vicki.
We were pretty wrapped up in the Davidson bubble. And I think that's pretty typical for a lot of college campuses. It certainly appeared to be true. I know we had some people, maybe Bo was much more politically active and aware than we were for sure. We were certainly aware of women's issues and of being women here and being, you know, the most closely watched group on campus and the most closely ignored group on campus at the same time. How does this work? But Bo,
Yeah,
you?
well, I think your question is a very good one because coeducation happened in that context of social and cultural upheaval. And I certainly felt that a lot of the pushback on coeducation was part of a broader pushback on change politically, socially, culturally in the country at that time. When I showed up here, I had a 1H draft card. The Vietnam War in 1970 was a real thing for all of us. And it was an unsettled time. And so I think that affected the coeducation debate, probably in ways we didn't recognize at the time. But it was a time of transition for Davidson because before we showed up, there was daily chapel, mandatory chapel. By the time
We're going to bring that back.
and by the time we graduated, there were a lot of people who thought the place had gone to hell in a handbasket. And it wasn't just because our hair was long. So, yeah, very good question and a good reminder.
So was ROTC mandatory at any point?
Not when I arrived. In fact, the biggest thing that happened with respect to ROTC my junior year was that somebody smoke bombed the entire area as a very pointless protest against the war. Very ineffective anyway, if not pointless. But no, that had faded away, and there was a lot of unrest on campus. We weren't like Berkeley, but there were a lot of people very upset about the war. And some of you might be old enough to remember when the Davidsonian ran an anti-Nixon editorial on the front page in 1973, almost exactly 50 years ago, Saturday Night Massacre. And that was the single biggest uproar from the alumni during my 4 years here. So it was real. It wasn't Berkeley. It wasn't even Chapel Hill, but it was real.
Thanks, Cecily. Next question.
So I'm sorry, Dr. Hicks, this isn't a question. This is an answer to the question you asked the panel and a plea to any current students. But you asked them, what regret did you have about your Davidson experience? And, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say my name, Kathy Ramos, class of 1977. So as we gather at the beach, I have gained a regret that I did not take advantage of all the opportunities that Davidson has. And so you heard the panel talk about their very close relationships with professors and with Dr. Spencer and others. Look at your new president. He is so delightful and what a plan. You said every time did not mean to be about you, but what a great opportunity for you guys who are still here to get to know the president of your college. I was jealous of the girls that, I mean, I knew Dr. Spencer, but I didn't go to his house for dinner or anything. And whenever, and when I went to school, you didn't go, or I thought you didn't go to the professor's office unless you were failing the class. And I wasn't failing. I didn't quite understand everything. And then when I found out some of these people who made straight A's spent every afternoon in the professor's office, I was like, well, that's cheating. So please don't think of it that way. If I'm looking around, doesn't look like there's that many current students, but okay, current students, take advantage of everything that this school has. because you are so lucky that you go to this school instead of some giant university. Enjoy it.
Let's hear it. I want to recognize my president, my Davidson president, John Kirkendall, who was in the back. I was going to also recognize Mitzi Kirkendall, who was my mentor. All right, now we've gone all State of the Union. So I think we have time for one more question. So make it a good one.
I'll try. David Dickey, class of 76. I was one of the ones who reaped the benefit of all your hard work. So thank you very much for paving the way. I was a student in high school of a 4-year military all-male school in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And part of my decision to come to Davidson was that I knew that you were in the process within a year or so of bringing women to campus. And I wanted that transition I wanted to be able to parallel that transition, and fortunately was able to reap the benefits of it and have come on 46 years of happy marriage with my wife, who we met here her freshman year. So my question is, I hear about all the obstacles, the challenges, all that sort of thing. My question is, why? What was the impetus to bring coeducation to Davidson?
What was the
To
what?
bring up the academic standards?
Pretty obvious, I guess. How about you, Mitzi?
I don't know that there's a better answer than that. I'm gonna go with what she said.
All right. Vicki, how did you choose Davidson?
I'm sorry, can you restate the question for me?
Oh,
What was the,
what made you choose Davidson to be part of this coeducation here?
what made me choose Davidson? Oh, I made a bad first choice of college. I was coming from a very conservative city and wanted to go someplace more liberal. I didn't do my homework. It was far enough away from home, but I went to Memphis thinking it was bigger city, yada, yada. Turns out Memphis is in Mississippi culturally. So it's kind of like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And so then I visited lots of colleges as a date. And I love the Davidson culture. It's kind of like, oh my God, they don't lock us up. And I trusted that you wouldn't when we got here, and you didn't. Thank you very much. So anyway, that's how mine happened.
Great.
So if the question is, why did we choose Davidson?
Yeah.
So, I don't think so.
No, that's
Why did
We're gonna
Davidson do
clarify.
Education.
No, the question is, behind the scenes, why did people say, gosh, we need to bring coeducation to Davidson College? The people who were making those decisions at the time, did they, out of the blue, decide to change this, 100-some years of an all-male institution? I know it was happening around the country, but I'm not sure why Davidson specifically made that decision.
Oh, you've got the.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about changes that were happening in the country. It wasn't just that Davidson felt that because a dozen other top liberal arts colleges were in the process of going co-ed or had recently gone co-ed. I think it was recognizing that there were major shifts happening in the country that were going to affect, if they weren't already affecting, higher education. And again, thank God for Sam Spencer and her strength. Because he understood it, as a guy who I think had been at Mary Baldwin before he came to Davidson, if I remember. He understood the importance of bringing coeducation, primarily to make Davidson better and to guarantee its future. And if Davidson had not gone co-ed in 1972, it might have been another few years and the train might have left the station and we might not be in this wonderful place right now. So I think the answer is we had responsible, perhaps even visionary leaders who understood that Davidson could not stand still and needed to move forward. And that was the real impetus that I saw, really more as an observer than a student leader, because it all happened when I was a sophomore and junior. That was really, I think, the driving force, as opposed to, somebody just deciding that Davidson needed to change. It was Davidson needed to change to maintain its excellence. And
Thanks,
the
Bob.
proof is in the pudding.
The proof is in the pudding. So. One more question for each of the panelists, and that is, in one word or one phrase, how would you describe your Davidson experience? Vicki?
One word, oh dear. Probably gratitude. I just have spent a lot of time over the years investing pieces of me in Davidson, trying to give back a very small portion of what I feel like Davidson gave me in the 2 years I was a student here. So I just feel like I practice gratitude. I mean, we're all better off if we practice gratitude every day, right?
Thank you, Vicki. Bo?
For me, it was support. It was a turbulent time, and it was difficult becoming an adult in the early 70s. And I just felt from my classmates, including trailblazers like Vicki, but the faculty, and dear old Will Terry and dear Sam Spencer, I just had this constant sense that I was being supported and people were trying to make my path better. And that's just an overarching image of my Davidson experience.
Thanks. Mitzi?
I would say impactful. It's almost like the ripple effect of throwing a pebble in water and having it expand. When I think about all the people that poured into me, the faculty, my fellow students, the African-American community that supported us here, Torrance Chapel Church. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And so the relationships have been lifelong, and impactful is the word I would say.
Thank you. Patti?
Home.
Make it a good one. Go ahead.
Home with a capital H. When I get off on exit 30, I feel like I'm coming home.
Yay.
Thank you all. I mentioned 60-40 split earlier. Now I realize that we had a panel that was 60-40 in the smarter direction. So I really just want to thank you, panelists. Thank you all for the incredible contributions you've made to Davidson with your time, with your careers, with your volunteer commitments to this place. And what an honor to get to talk with you all. So let's thank them one more time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to have a few closing remarks from Lily Acton, class of 20. So we're going to go off stage and she's going to come out and close us out. So thank you very much. Great.
Thank you again to Vicki, Mitzi, Patti, Bo, and President Hicks. What a great way to kick off this really special weekend together. As President Hicks said, my name is Lily Acton. I'm a member of the class of 2020. As Deidre mentioned at the start of tonight's program, I have had the privilege of serving as one of the co-chairs for this coeducation weekend. As a recent Davidson grad, it's especially meaningful for me to be a part of this celebration and to see so many women who paved the way for the experience I enjoyed just a few years ago here. This is such a special community, and it's one I'm truly honored to be a part of. I know you're probably all excited to get on with your evening and reconnect with friends and enjoy a great dinner tonight. So let me give you a quick glimpse of what's in store for us all tomorrow. The Continental Breakfast starts at 8 a.m. here in the Union, followed by fantastic breakout panels with some incredible alums. You don't want to miss any of the programming we have planned for you all day tomorrow. Remember that everything you need is in the Davidson Guides app, so be sure to download that if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any of the fun. So with all that being said, have a great evening and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.